Hey guys, CommonSensei here, and welcome back to another episode of the I'm Just Sayin video podcast, where I serve as your tour guide through this minefield of liberal idiocy, ridiculousness, and stupidity. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you already know that Kyle Rittenhouse got acquitted of all charges in his murder trial. We're going to go over that a little bit, and we're going to talk about how that relates to white supremacy. What? I got my normal cup of joe. Notice I didn't mention the company that normally fills my coffee cup. I'm going to let you do the research and figure out why. Still very good coffee though, so let's get it started. Okay, so like I said in my intro, unless you've been living under a rock, you already know that Kyle Rittenhouse has already been acquitted of the murder charges in his trial. Now, if you have been living under said rock, then what you may not know are some key details revolving around this case and how it relates to white supremacy. That's right, how it relates to white supremacy. So for those of you who are familiar with the case, try not to laugh your ass off and fall out of your seat as you chuckle at the words that I just said on how it relates to white supremacy. Now, again, for all you rock dwellers, it's important that you know a couple of details. Number one, Kyle Rittenhouse was a 17-year-old young man on August 20th of 2020. Now that riot was in protest for the George Floyd death that occurred earlier in May of 2020. During this riot, Kyle Rittenhouse, who was carrying an AR-15, shot 3 people. Now, those 3 men who were shot, 2 of them were killed, 1 of them was wounded. One of the things that you need to know is that Kyle Rittenhouse is white. Now, the reason this is important is because we cannot have 17 and 18-year-old young men walking around the streets with AR-15s shooting and oppressing people of color. It's not allowed, or at least it shouldn't be allowed. And for Kyle Rittenhouse to exercise his white supremacist views in Kenosha, Wisconsin, it absolutely should not be tolerated. I'm just saying. Except the people he shot were not people of color. All 3 of them were white. Toasty! Now, all 3 of these high-class contributing members of society were all convicted felons. One of them was a burglar, the other one was a domestic abuser, and then the third one was a child molester. All convicted, all prohibited from owning or possessing any kind of firearms or dangerous weapon. Let's take a look at these fine young men, shall we? Okay, so genius number 1 is Anthony Huber, convicted felon, convicted of assault and battery, domestic abuse, false imprisonment, and an illegal weapon. This is the guy that ran up to Kyle when Kyle was down on the ground and attempted to hit him. Well, he actually did hit him in the head with a skateboard. Then he tries to grab Kyle's weapon, gets shot, and killed. Brainiac number 2 is Gage Grosskreutz? I think we just said we were going to call him Gage, right? We did? Okay. Anyways, so Gage is also a convicted felon, convicted of felony burglary, probation violation, and illegal weapon. This is the guy that after Anthony Huber gets shot, Gage runs up with a Glock semi-automatic pistol, points it in Kyle Rittenhouse's direction, actually at his head, and gets shot. Now, he doesn't get killed, but Kyle basically turns his right bicep into ground hamburger. Now, concerned citizen number 3 is Joseph Rosenbaum. Convicted felon, he's a sex offender, level 3 offender, failure to maintain register status. This guy is a convicted child rapist. This guy was the first one that was shot earlier in the night. Kyle's running down the road trying to get back to the police line after he shoots Rosenbaum, and then Anthony Huber and Gage engage and assault him. Now, obviously, Huber gets killed, Rosenbaum gets killed, and Gage gets wounded. All right, so there's been a ton of controversy on whether or not Kyle Rittenhouse should have even been in Kenosha when this riot was going on. And certainly that's debatable, and I'm not trying to make the kid out to be a hero or anything. However, first, it's important to know that he had every right to be down there same as anybody else. The other argument there, and this is arguments that have been presented to me by people that I know, is should he have even been in possession of an AR-15? Now, I'm not going to argue that. That's a matter of semantics. But according to Wisconsin state statute, yes, he could be in possession of that firearm as long as it is a rifle or a shotgun. Now, he can't purchase the firearm, and he can't take the firearm over state lines. And the reason that's important to note is because he's from Antioch, Illinois, as opposed to Kenosha, Wisconsin. So while he crossed over the border, he did not bring the gun with him. Somebody else did. Now, I understand that these are all little details and somewhat technicalities, but the fact of the matter is he did not violate the law by being there, nor did he violate the law by possessing this firearm. Okay, all that being said, how does this relate to white supremacy? Well, it doesn't. Now, it's important to remember that there's four main players in all of this. Kyle Rittenhouse certainly is one of them, Anthony Huber, Gage, and Joseph Rosenbaum. Oddly enough, they're all white. So how is this a white supremacy issue? I've already said it's not. But the left, the mainstream media, Hollywood elites, and professional athletes that want to throw their 2 cents worth say, well, the only reason he was acquitted is because, the system favors white supremacists. This makes absolutely no sense, and the argument is 100% idiotic. Now, Colin Kaepernick recently started running his yapper because he said, and I quote, "We just witnessed a system built on white supremacy validate the terroristic acts of a white supremacist." White supremacy cannot be reformed. What? What? There is absolutely zero proof that Kyle Rittenhouse is, was, or ever will be anything close to a white supremacist. But this knucklehead, Colin Kaepernick, decides, you know what? I'm going to stretch my 15 minutes into 20 minutes of fame, and I'm going to run my mouth about something I absolutely know nothing about. Not that Kaepernick has ever been credible, but if he even had one little shred of credibility, it just flew out the window. Gone. Zippo. Nothing. There's nothing left. There's nothing. Okay? There's zero credibility here. First of all, Colin Kaepernick is biracial. He talks about people of color going through oppression in this country and how racist this country is. When he started taking a knee, he said, and I quote, "I will not stand for a flag that oppresses people of color." Okay, fine, get it. Except guess what? That's not this nation. Okay? He's biracial. He's half white, half black, raised by a white family, went to college on a scholarship, and signed a multi-million-dollar deal, a lot of which was guaranteed before his career went down the shitter, not because he was a person of color, but because he couldn't hack it in the NFL anymore. I'm just saying. How did Colin Kaepernick go from happy Kaepernick to angry Kaepernick? I wonder if it has anything to do with an entitlement mentality from a kid that all the way through middle school, high school, and college was a football and a baseball star, adopted by a family that gave him everything he could ever want, never wanted for anything, was very popular, ended up going on a scholarship to college, and then signing a multi-million-dollar deal. Decides, you know what? I'm bored. I'm going to get a girlfriend who's an anti-white militant, and I'm going to get radicalized myself. Hey Kaepernick, I haven't given this award out in quite a while, but you earned it. Hands down. You're the jackass of the week. So I guess the mantra for this episode and for today is, don't be dumb. Look, do I think racism exists in America? I'm sure it does to some degree. However, this little 15 minutes stretching out to 20 minutes of fame by people like Kaepernick, by the mainstream media, by all these Hollywood elites, it's got to stop. It probably won't stop, but it needs to stop. Hey, that's all the time I have for this episode of the I'm Just Sayin video podcast. I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down there. Also, make sure you check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next time.